Welcome back to the channel. This is the IPP Education Hub. If you are struggling with ED and considering an IPP, or if you are partnering somebody who is going through the IPP journey and you have questions about the experience, then you've come to the right place. As we step into new topics surrounding the IPP on this channel, in this specific video, I want to talk about how maybe your mood maybe having an impact on your ability to have really great intimate experiences, and how otherwise depression might be ruining your sex drive. Now, one thing I'd like to share about myself is I've gone through different seasons, through different chapters of my life, however you want to word it. And it's in those chapters that my mood can have an impact on the kind of intimacy that I'm having. So for example, let's say everything at work is going great. I'm getting good performance reviews and my projects all look great and I'm getting great feedback. Of course, that's going to put me in a better mood, and therefore it's going to make me want to have more enjoyable, intimate experiences. However, there have also been times in my life that have been stressful and that my libido or my sex drive hasn't been as high. And it's in those moments that I start to question if something is physically wrong with me. But in reality, it's important to be aware that maybe what's happening with my mood or internally may have been why I was experiencing low sex drive in those chapters. Now, for most of us, we're not just talking about what's busy at work and how that can affect our mood. We're talking about bills. We're talking about potential kids or extended families. We're talking about all of these variables that go into our lives and can have an impact on whether or not we are able to have really great sexual experiences. In a lot of cases, we think of sex as this physical function. However, it's important to recognize that this is also deeply rooted in how we mentally and emotionally are feeling. So on the days or the moments or even the extended periods that you're feeling down or stressed or just not into it, this will have a major effect on whether or not you're in the mood to have sex. Now, the great part about the IPP is that in the past, if you were feeling down or if you were feeling low, and maybe that was affecting your ability to get an erection, it's in these moments that you can now use the IPP to help you still achieve that erection that you need for sexual intimacy. And I know some of you are thinking, but if you're feeling down and if you're feeling not in the mood, then why would you want to have an erection and have sex anyway? I personally think that why those two things are connected in terms of our ability to have great intimate experiences, whether or not our moods are allowing for it or not. When we look at it from the other side, as someone who has an IPP, there are times that I maybe am not necessarily in the mood, but then if I have my partner suggesting that they're in the mood, the IPP allows me to pump it up. And essentially, I get in the mood. And this has created just this new mentality that I wouldn't have even understood before getting an IPP. I don't want to sit here and say that sex always makes me happy, but I will say that in moments that other parts of my life are maybe stacking up and becoming a little overwhelming, it is nice to be able to have a physical connection with someone and be intimate with someone and know that that creates relief. And that relief maybe wasn't even possible prior to getting the IPP due to the fact that my mood and energy would oftentimes play an impact on whether or not I would be able to get a sustainable erection. I think it's important to recognize that when we are carrying stress, sadness, or other emotions that maybe are weighing heavily on us, that our bodies are not going to respond in the same ways as when we're happy and we are feeling stress-free or when everything is going in our favor. The IPP sort of adds this variable. I wouldn't necessarily call it a cheat code, but it adds this variable that makes it otherwise easier to connect in ways that I wasn't able to do prior. Now, I've had some men ask me that if you're not in the mood and you inflate your IPP, then are you sort of just going through the motions? And I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, as I've kind of touched on, I don't look at it that way. It's in these moments that I can sort of approach intimacy and know that in the past, when my body wasn't cooperating, it now does cooperate. And if nothing else, that sort of changes my mindset and allows me to embrace intimacy and be more prepared for it. Now, I personally believe that there are numerous things that are going into the human body as we age. This video, we've talked about how maybe our mood or being depressed or sad in certain seasons or chapters can affect our libido or whether or not we want to be sexually intimate. I also think there are other considerations that go into it, such as age, whether or not we are effectively communicating and connecting with our partner, as well as just other variables that surround our lives. When you have an IPP, it allows you to sort of minimize a lot of those other considerations. Even in moments where maybe my mood isn't the best, or I've had a long day, or maybe work isn't going great, things are now very different because in the past, that frustration would almost be amplified by the fact that I was unable to have intimate experiences that would sort of ground me back to a baseline that I wanted to be at. However, now with the IPP, whether it's been a long day at work or whatever is going on mentally, I know that my body will be able to perform the way that I want it to, but it's in these moments of sexual intimacy that I feel a sense of relief, and I also feel connection with the other person, which allows for me to sort of rejuvenate my spirits in a lot of ways that I previously wouldn't have been able to do prior to the IPP. So if you are someone who is struggling with ED, and it's possible that maybe you are experiencing some medical issues with your anatomy, but there also might be some elements of your mood and whether or not you're dealing with depression or sadness or anything else that might be affecting you during those moments. It's important to remember that those emotions can absolutely have an effect on your natural ability to have intimate experiences, whether that's going to affect your libido or just your general interest and mood. However, when you have an IPP and you can sort of bypass that emotional and mental element of things, it really makes for an entirely new perspective when it comes to sexual intimacy and connection. And while I cannot say that an IPP is guaranteed to help people with their mindfulness, what I can say for myself, having an IPP has really changed my mindset when it comes to my abilities to be intimate during these moments that in the past I maybe would have been affected by my mood or how the day was going or whether or not my libido was at a point where I was ready to be intimate. So if you are noticing that your mood and your energy is having an impact on your ability to have really great intimate experiences, then you may want to consider an IPP as a solution. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications so that you are in the loop every single time I release a new video here on the IPP Education Hub. And as always, be kind to yourself and be kind to others.